Happy Monday. Welcome back. Welcome to the Healing She Got Faith show. This is Lily. I am the founder and I am your talk show host. My microphone is making a lot of noise right now. Okay, here we go. What the heck? Okay, I think we're okay. Anyways, welcome back. Happy Monday. October clearly had somewhere to be because it's already November and then it's already like, I guess this is like the second week of November. Yeah. So 2022 is really about to be up out the door, and clearly 2022 is tired of us because the way that time is moving. Oh my gosh. So, Monday, today is November 7th. Um, Welcome to episode 44. This is episode 44. I just sat here and thought about it as I'm recording. The anniversary of the talk show is coming up. That's actually going to be next week, where it would be a year that the talk show has been in place, which I'm going to have to talk about that next week. But yes, if you are new here, this is Healing She Got Faith. This is an organization created for adults who are grieving and or on their self-love journey. We envision creating a safe space for adults just to be. We encourage you to love you the way you love the world, because a lot of times that is what is stopping us from truly living out our authentic selves. So welcome if you're new here. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So yes, before we start the show, I'm want to do a check-in. And so my check-in is I'm actually okay today. I feel very energized. I feel motivated. Compared to last week, I was just very fatigued and very tired, but there was a lot going on with the grand opening. There was a lot going on in society and things like that. So I do feel good. I don't feel sad or fatigued or restless. I'm very much ready to like get the day started, get it over with. And yeah, we have voting tomorrow. So I am gonna do my last minute check-ins on the ballot to make sure that um I have my little cheat sheet. I don't know how y'all vote, but like when I vote, I always take like either the sample ballot that they send us in the mail, or I take a little sticky note and put the people I'm going to vote for on the sticky note. So I call it a little cheat code. I learned that in college that you can do that. You can take notes and stuff with you while you go vote so that you remember who and what to vote for. So tomorrow's a pretty big election, so I'm trying to like prep myself for that. So, yeah, I just feel like I'm very motivated, and the weather has been beautiful. I mean, it's November and it kind of feels like very springy, but the weather has been beautiful. I'm going to take it because it helps me to be better at what I'm doing. So my check-in is, yeah, like I'm doing pretty good. If I say so myself, I think that given the circumstances of life right now, I think I am doing pretty well given. So since this is like a podcast about grief, I do want to address a couple things because in the music world, we lost two people within the last week, which we lost Takeoff. I believe he passed last Monday or last Tuesday. I think it was November 1st. And man, that was that this is part of the check-in, yeah. Because for those of you who are new here, last week I decided that I was going to try a new format for the show, and so this is only week 2, so we're gonna start with check-ins, and then we'll move on with our agenda. I'm trying new things, y'all, so bear with me. It's also me. I do everything. I promote, I produce, I record, I edit, which don't judge me on the editing skills. But yeah, so we've had two celebrity deaths in the last week. We had Takeoff, who passed away on November 1st. And then over the weekend, Aaron Carter passed away. And so I think part of my check-in is embracing life, because Takeoff was only 28, Aaron Carter was only 34. I just turned 31. And so it's scary to see people around your age who are passing away prematurely, who are passing away so young. Like I believe we all deserve to live a longer life, especially men. Like it kind of hits home for me too, because there has been so many men in my life who had died at a young age, including my father. And so just thinking about it, and then I feel like a lot of people were very hurt with Takeoff, simply being because he was the quiet person. He was the person that stayed out the way, and literally wrong time, wrong place. I'm not going to get into details about the story or whatever. I'm not going to get into any conspiracies or anything like that. But the reality is, like, he was only 28 and his life was taken so so early, and he just had such a bright future ahead of him. And so, like, I'm sending love and support and resources and everything to Takeoff's family, to the Migos. And even though, like, I don't know them, I don't know if I ever will know them if they ever hear this, um, if they ever will hear this. But I'm just sending that healing love to them, because it's hard. It's hard. And then for the rest of the family's life, they will always be reminded, because he was famous. He was a famous person who impacted the world. I mean, impacted the music industry. So that's really sad. And then over the weekend, I believe it was Saturday, Aaron Carter had passed away. And I grew up like with the Backstreet Boys. I had Aaron Carter's first CD, and from what I understand, Aaron Carter had a very hard life, as far as like he had the battle with drugs. And again, I'm not here to talk about theories or anything, or even educate people on that. That would be another topic for another show. But the reality is, like, he was so young and he had such a battle, and it just finally came to a point where his his lifestyle, the things that affected him in life, kind of won. And it's heartbreaking, because with both of these situations, we deal with a societal grief. We deal with a grief where multiple people, not just these people's families, are affected. On top of, when we speak about society, this weekend was the funeral of the young lady of the young lady and the teacher, I believe, who passed away because St. Louis had a school shooting on October 24th. And um, three people, one of them including the suspect, were killed. And so this weekend, the city had like just an overwhelming sense of grief and healing, and just momentum of like, what is next? What are we doing moving forward? How do we grieve? How do we heal? How do we get through this? And so, wow, I am fine, like physically, emotionally, even spiritually, like I'm fine. Like today's a good day. I can't neglect the fact that there's a lot that's happened in society that could very much wear me down. As of right now, it's not. I'm acknowledging it. And I think that's why it's not wearing me down, because I am acknowledging it. And I am at a place where I know that, like, you know, I have to take care of myself and encouraging other people and trying to be in the community and trying to just be at a place where, people have to heal. People have to be, people have to understand grief. People have to give themselves permission, which I don't know how I forgot to bring this up on my check-in, but that brings me to yesterday. I worked a workshop with a local therapist in St. Louis, and it was called Wind Down. And it was with a group of ladies, and I talked to them about, which is today's topic, grief, healing, and holidays. And it was so good. And I think that's why I have so much energy, because I was fueled even though I was the guest speaker and even though I was leading activities, I was fueled from the people who participated because it was a very much needed conversation. It was a conversation that needed to happen. It was a conversation that came with women who were ready to be vulnerable and ready to heal from what it is that they're dealing with. And so that was really beautiful. That was really great. I'm really getting good at these speaking engagements. So I love to see that that is something that I want to do because I want to educate people on grief. I want to get people to a point where we're comfortable with grief. We're talking about grief and we're putting, we're in a place that um grief is no longer suffocating us, but we are taking grief and we're learning it and we're moving with it and we're healing through it because the only way to heal is to feel. Okay. So my check-in, that's my check-in. It was a little long. So if you are new here, we have an icebreaker. I do this whether it's me at a conference, whether it's me on the podcast, whether we have a guest, whatever. This is the only icebreaker I will probably ever do for the rest of my life. People love it. I love it. It gets the conversation started. But what I do is I pick an affirmation card, I read it, and we discuss if it resonates with you. And yeah, it's a great icebreaker. It gets the conversation going. It helps people to feel comfortable. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So today, I'm picking from the dream cards and the mindful messages, which these are two of my favorite cards. And I just feel like they're always getting people together, they're always getting me together. So, yes. So, from the dream cards, it says, the answers lie in the moment. Stay awake, be present, stay faithful to your observations and feelings. This is my goal, probably for the rest of my life. Definitely for the rest of 2022. Like just being present in the moment. I'm trying to limit the distractions such as my phone, such as TV, such as TikTok. I lose so many minutes of the day because I always find distractions. Most of the time it's social media that it allows me to drift away. Instead of sitting with myself, I have the excuse of being on social media and being at a place where I'm like, okay, um, this is how I'm feeling. Instead, I get on social media. And then, of course, the way TikTok set up, you get on TikTok and you feel like, oh my gosh, they're speaking to my life. When in reality, like I should just be sitting with myself and journaling or writing down my thoughts or doing something. So I want to be present. And it says, stay faithful to your observations and feelings. And I believe this is so important. Like so many of us don't know how to just be present with ourselves and allow ourselves to feel, allow ourselves to be um in the place where we actually observe what our bodies are doing, whether that's physical, emotional, spiritual, whether we are paying attention to our mind, the way our heart beats, the way our leg aches, like just being observant in what our body is doing in these moments. So be present, stay woke with yourself, and not, I think that's the other thing, like not worrying about what other people have going on because it's important that we stop worrying about what other people have to say about us and how they think about us, but how we view ourselves. A lot of us are struggling because we don't know ourselves because society or the people around us has always put these thoughts in your head. And, now is the time to sit with yourself. And now is the time to get to know yourself. Now is the time to say, we are one, we are here. This is what we are doing. This is how we are feeling. And it's okay to sit with yourself. I think a lot of times we tell each other, like, sit with yourself, don't stay there. But sometimes, like, we have to be realistic and we have to be at a place where we're like, okay, I'm not going to stay here, but for right now, this is where I'm at. So that's my goal. I'm definitely going to make that a goal for the rest of 2022. We have a little over a month left. And so I don't know how I'm going to keep track. Maybe I'll try to be, I don't know. I'm gonna think about that, but I'm definitely gonna try to be present. So I'm gonna try to do more things that force me to be present. So, mindful messages. It says, the better it gets. When things happen that cause me to feel good, I know there are much more good feeling things coming my way. The better it gets, and I keep rising up. I feel like this card is for me because I do think things are starting to get better for me. I saw a friend from college yesterday at Starbucks while I was preparing to do this speaking engagement with this group of ladies yesterday. And she was like, "Oh, you dyed your hair red. You look good. You doing these speaking engagements." She was like, "You are really out here living your best life." And I was like, yeah, I'm finally living, because I think so much of my life has just been me surviving, but I'm actually living. I'm actually embracing what I want to do, what I am going to do, what it is, and all that. And so that felt good to say. And so the card says the better it gets. When things happen that cause me to feel good, I know there are much more good. And if I'm being honest, I have mentally been a negative Nancy, to where I don't really feel deserving of good things, because I have felt that majority of my life the bad things have happened. Like, it didn't matter how positive I was, it didn't matter how good I was, but it always seemed like the short end of the stick. And let me give you a prime example. Yesterday was Sunday, and so I knew I had this speaking engagement in the afternoon. So I was like, and I knew I'd be there for about 3 hours. And so I had honestly the night before had ordered Whole Foods to be delivered to my house like 6 a.m. in the morning. And it came, but then I decided, no, I'm actually gonna take myself on a date and I'm gonna go to brunch. So in my head, I'm like, well, if you're gonna go to brunch on a Sunday, you have to get up early and you have to, set this up, see if you can make a reservation. So the night before, I was trying to make reservations. They kept saying for one person, that's not an option. So I was like, okay, cool. So I wake up, and of course the time changed. And so I don't know, I was just kind of sluggish and just kind of at a place where I'm like, oh, whatever, it should work out. So I leave the house a little bit later than I intended to. And so the first place I went, which I just had my mouth fixated on the food I was about to throw down on. And I get there and it's an hour and a half away. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Now they do have a bar that you can go up and sit, but even the bar was packed and people were waiting at the bar. And I was like, okay, yeah, I have to be at this place at a certain time. If I wait here, it's going to be an issue. So I sat in the car for like maybe 20 minutes. Just honestly, I was on social media because I'm like, what am I about to do? Am I about to go all the way back home, or what is it? So I tried to figure out where the place was, and I figured it out. And I was like, well, there's not really any food places over there. So what am I going to do? So I'm texting one of my friends, and I'm like, one of my friends had texted me, was like, what are you doing? So I'm like, well, I caught myself taking myself on a date, but that's not going to happen. So he was trying to help me, give me some suggestions and stuff like that. So I think I had looked up Chevy's Mexican restaurant because I found out they had brunch, but they had a wait. I looked up another brunch place, they had a wait. And so finally my friend was like, well, go to IHOP. You like IHOP? I'm like, yeah, I just wanted a mimosa, but you're right, it's fine. I'll go ahead and go to IHOP. Yeah, I go to IHOP, and IHOP has a line wrapped around the building, and I'm like, okay. So I text him and I'm like, so IHOP is out the picture. So then um so then it was a Starbucks by IHOP. So I was like, I'll just settle for Starbucks. So this particular Starbucks, the parking lot is terrible. So I was like, I'm not even about to fool with this. So I actually parked across the street and walked over. So I order my stuff, get the food. Yeah, they messed up my whole order. I was like, so I text my friend. I'm like, I'm about to cry. Starbucks messed up my whole order. Okay, Carby. Starbucks messed up my whole order. Carby. Starbucks messed up my whole order. Carby, sit down. Starbucks messed up my whole order, and Carby. So yeah. So anyways, so that was my day, and it was just like, so I was texting him, and he was like, "Golly, what is going on?" Carby, can you sit down? Y'all hear this little girl? Sit down. Sit. Thank you. So he was like, golly, like, what's going on? And so, like, in that moment, I was just like, um, I don't know, my life. And so I had to fight really hard not to go back to that place of like, well, this is just my life. This always happens. This is always bad. Like, this is always the thing, blah, blah, blah. So I just was like, well, it's okay. Life is fine. I got my coffee. They fixed my food. I'm only 20 minutes away from where I need to be. I'm going to just go ahead and head out there now. So it's stuff like that. And even just now, like with the dog barking, like I would just be feeling like anytime I try to do something, there's always something that like jumps in it or just like stops me from making the quality. And so there has come a sense of, well, like you have to take responsibility for like the environment that you're putting yourself in, maybe some things that you're doing and things of that nature. So, with that being said, I do believe that better things are coming. And I think that's why I feel as energetic as I do with the check in. Because yesterday was just so good. Like I said, I'm getting really good at these speaking engagements, partnering people, and things of that nature. So I'm really excited. I do believe that better things are coming. I can see the shift in my space. And it's not to say I'm perfect because I do still have to challenge myself on the way I'm thinking. So, yes. Okay, icebreaker. So yes, yeah. So let's hop right into today's topic. So today we are talking about grief, healing, and holidays. And so I would just like to say that next week I will actually be starting a grief group called Grief, Healing, and Holidays. And then what we talked about yesterday was grief, healing, and holidays. And so it's so important because we are entering in the holiday season, which typically is the grieving season. Like typically most of us struggle with the healing season. And then when we think about holidays, we think about traditions, we think about family gatherings, we think about our loved ones' favorite um dishes to cook and things of that nature. And so, one of the things that was brought up in the group yesterday from the therapist that leads the group was she was talking about how she had a client, and one of the clients came to her and was like, I'm just trying to survive the holidays. Like, I'm just trying to survive it. And I think that is such an important thing to think about because there are some people who genuinely cannot enjoy the holidays. I used to love the holidays. Like my family was so big on holidays, and as the years have went on, it's no longer the case. Like that's no longer what we do. That's no longer how we envision ourselves. Like I don't really celebrate the holidays at all anymore. And part of that is because of grief. Part of that is because of money. Like I just don't see the point in spending all this money. And then the other thing that is probably so silly is like I don't like Thanksgiving food. I do not like Thanksgiving food. Now, the in the last couple years I was living in New York, so I was living with my aunt, and a Puerto Rican Thanksgiving is so different than like what I grew up with. I would say like a traditional Thanksgiving, and I love the Puerto Rican Thanksgiving. So if I could bring that here, but obviously I don't want to buy all that food. I don't want to do all that cooking. So yeah. Anyways, but with holidays, that is a typical grieving season for most of us. And so I think it starts with like us understanding grief. Like, what is grief? Because most of us don't know what grief is. Grief is a taboo and unspoken subject. And so, how Healing She Got Faith defines grief is anything that we have lost that has affected us. And so the other parts of that with Healing She Got Faith is we also focus on grief beyond death, which simply means any grief or hurting outside of death. And examples can include divorce, breakup, house fire, new job, new move. If you have a terminal illness, maybe you're grieving your old self, but also too, an example I can give you, I was like, our kids grieving school due to COVID because our kids went from going to school every day to all of a sudden they had to do school at home. So they're grieving their teacher, their friends, their day-to-day tasks, things like that. We don't think about that as grief, but it is grief. And I know like an example yesterday that I was talking about with this lady where it's like, well, I actually talk about it to quite a few people, but grieving people who are still alive. So grieving that relationship that you thought you were going to have, grieving that relationship that you used to have. So like one of the ladies gave an example with her older sister. Like her and her sister had kind of fell out for whatever reason, and then her sister had some things going on in life, reached back out to her, and she was angry, and she was angry because of the grief she was feeling. Like, you're my big sister, why were you not here? So, and then we do get upset when people do try to come back. So with that being said, like, understanding what grief is, it's not just death, it's not just when someone dies, you're grieving. There's a lot that we grieve, but also too, even in death, not understanding how to fully grieve because of what we have been through, not understanding how to fully grieve because a lot of us put on this superman, superwoman persona, this facade of I have to get through this. So we have to understand grief, and we also have to give our we also have to give ourselves permission to grieve. And during the holiday season, that is so important. So, like I said before, typically the grief season is a holiday season. We most of us have family traditions, societal expectations, and or religious or spiritual requirements. We constantly watch people and families get together, and we have these big gatherings. But we also are reminded of who is it is not here. And so this is where that giving yourself permission comes in, because you have to give yourself permission in order to grieve. It's important it's important to know that each individual has their own grief season. Even though there's a general grief season, it's important to know that we each have our own. For example, my grief season is really between September and January, and then it comes back in like April. So our societal's grief season is really between like November and January. Though we see an increase of grief, depression, and things like that between those months. But again, your grief season might be the loss of your son, the loss of your parents. Maybe it's the year mark of a house fire. Maybe it's the year mark of you being in a new position. Maybe it's been 5 years since you've been in a house, anything like that. So, your grief season are the times that make you think about your past and everything that used to be. So, some things that we need to think about um is we have to check in with ourselves about how do we truly feel about holidays and family gatherings. Do we even like to celebrate them anymore? Do we want to do things differently? Are we tired? Are we tired of putting on a facade? Are we tired of showing up when we don't want to? Are there are there family traditions? Do you have your own traditions? Do you feel fatigued or lonely? Okay, so these are things that we need to ask ourselves. These are things we need to check in with ourselves about. How do we combat this? So I'm going to give you a couple ways that we can possibly combat this, and it might seem very general, but it's things to think about within yourself. So the first thing I would suggest to you is don't force yourself to participate. If you don't want to do it, then don't. So if you don't want to go to your aunt's house, then don't. If you don't want to host Thanksgiving this year, then don't. If you don't want to cook, don't. Don't, don't. I don't know how else to say that. Like, if you don't feel like doing it, then don't. If you are married, if you have kids, so maybe your kids want to go with their cousins, then maybe work it out to see if they can go with your cousins, but you stay at home. If your husband really wants to go to his parents' house, or you really want to go to your parents' house, but your spouse ain't feeling it, work that out. The thing about it is, there is no law that says you have to do this. If you are grieving and you are trying to combat that, then look within yourself and figure out a way. But the key to this year is, if you don't want to do it, then don't. Start a new tradition. The grieving season is really starting a couple weeks. So some of this might not be plausible, but just think about it. Start a new tradition. Maybe travel, cook a new dish, maybe just try a restaurant. I know for me, like, I started on Christmas, like, I started going to the movies. Um, just randomly going to like a local movie theater. I'm supporting a local business, but I'm also just giving myself those couple hours to just be. And it's not even like I like to go to the movie theater for real, but it gives me something to do. For Thanksgiving, if you're usually the cooker and you don't want to cook, then ask somebody else to do it. Or find a restaurant, make a reservation. Go do that. Tip somebody really well for working on Thanksgiving. Um, Find something else to do. Whatever that tradition may be. Maybe you all move to a new city, so you don't have anybody. So maybe it's just you and your kids. So you and your kids start a tradition. And a tradition could be as simple as wearing pajamas. Like, that was something that kind of brought our family close together, because for a lot of years we didn't have a lot of money, but for Christmas Eve, we would dress up in pajamas. And I know that's popular now, but like my family had kind of always done that because it was just a cheap, easy way to be able to bond with each other. And we would change Christmas Eve into our pajamas. We would wait till midnight, open one gift. And the next morning, we did the Santa Claus thing and we stayed in pajamas all day while mom cooks. And we ate, we watched movies, we ate candy, we played with our new toys. So it was a really fun tradition that we looked forward to every year. As a 31-year-old, I kind of miss it, but nevertheless, like that's a choice that I have to decide to bring back or don't bring back. And just right now, I just don't think it's realistic for me to try to bring that back. But it is something that I can acknowledge and say, like, hey, I missed that. And then, you know, just maybe, like I said, maybe join somebody else, do untraditional things such as like having pizza or McDonald's, going to the buffet, going to the movies. Do something different. Do something that's actually going to make you happy and not stress you out. This has been my biggest thing in life with big events, holidays. I am at a place where I don't want to do anything that's going to stress me out. Like, I don't want to do big events that is going to like just drive me crazy. When I was working on my grand opening, like my grand opening and my birthday, I purposely did stuff that would not cause me anxiety. Like, I didn't want to plan all this stuff. I didn't want it to be extravagant. I didn't want to spend all this money. Like, I wanted it to be concise and simple. And I wanted it straight to the point, because part of that is like I didn't want to become so anxious over an event that is supposed to be fun. Like, we so many times we stress ourselves out. Like, holidays were meant to be family gatherings, and holidays were meant to be at a place where, you know, we enjoy each other's presence. Like, all this spending money and being stressed out, like, I loved taking a nap with my cousins growing up. Like, that was so fun. We would play, we would take a nap, wake up, eat, and go play again. Like, it was so fun to me. And so that is really what I miss. And so getting through the holidays, you have to know that grief will be there. So allow yourself to grieve. Give yourself permission to grieve. Figure out what healing is to you. Healing isn't going to look the same for everybody else. And know that like the holiday seasons, those important dates are never going to go away. Your body has a biological clock and it knows it. And it knows what you're going to go through. So stop trying to hide what you're feeling and allow yourself to feel that. Okay, allow yourself to feel in order to heal. Okay, so yeah, so what are our takeaways from today? I would say our takeaways from today is really just to be honest with yourself during this holiday season. If you don't want to do something, then don't. Give yourself permission today to feel. Give yourself permission to check in with your emotions and try something new. So yeah. So yeah, grief healing and holidays. All right, y'all. So our next segment is affirmations. And so our affirmation for today is, are y'all ready? I'm just playing. Our affirmation for today is, I am worthy enough to heal. And I think that is plain and simple, because I think some of us need to remind ourselves, I am worthy enough to heal. I do not have to live in pain. I do not have to stay in pain. While life will be painful, I do not have to live with that. I give myself permission to heal. I am worthy to heal. So that is our affirmation for today. Okay. So, housekeeping. We have our blog every Wednesday at 3:00. We have so all you have to do is go to healingshegotfaith.com/blog. You can also subscribe to our email list and just check us out on social media. I'm very active on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So check us out there. I am posting probably like every single day. So every Wednesday at 3 p.m. we have the blog. Y'all know y'all catch me y'all catch me here every Monday at 3:00. Some new events and programs. I'm so excited. So New program is Grief, Healing, and Holidays. That will be every Wednesday starting next Wednesday. That's the 16th, I believe. At 6 o'clock, you can do in person or virtual, and we will do a 6 week program based off of grief and holidays. And it will serve as a support for people to be able to get through the holidays. On top of that, on November 18th and 19th, I will have a retreat that will be at the office. So that's in person. There is no virtual option for that. So that's only $40. We'll work on self-love, we'll work on grief, we'll do affirmations, we'll have some karaoke, some games, some food, and things of that nature. So yes, I'm excited about that. And I think that's it, y'all. I think that is all I have. Check us out on all social media. Subscribe, listen, share this podcast with somebody. And yeah, I hope y'all have a great rest of your Monday. I hope that this week is powerful for you. And I will catch you next Monday right here. All right, guys. Have a great day. Happy week.